Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome, and good evening, I should say, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on Facebook Live, YouTube, and Twitter. I am Bryson Carver. As always, we've got a great show for you guys today. All kinds of crazy news in the NFL, NBA stuff as well. The Lakers lost their fourth straight last night, but I will explain to you why it's no big deal. Okay, it's not. I'll discuss that a little later in the show. Also, Russell Wilson is really not happy in Seattle. Like, it's worse than we thought, guys. I'll discuss that in just a few minutes, as well as, I love Dak. I'm wearing his hat even, and I love Deshaun Watson. And for the last 2 years, I've kind of favored Deshaun Watson. Like, I think Deshaun's a little better. But then I looked at the numbers, and then I looked at the situations that they're in, and the gap is tighter than you might actually think. I'll discuss that later on the show as well. So before I get into anything, the day after my last show, we had some freaking scary news. Tiger Woods, Tuesday morning at just after 7 p.m., at least that's when the 911 call was made, in Southern California in the LA area. A 911 call was placed, the 911 was called because Tiger Woods was in a car accident. The report is that he was on his way to a photo shoot, I believe is what it was, with Justin Herbert and Drew Brees. And so the report comes out that he's in this car accident, and it's in a road. A lot of people that live in Los Angeles have said, yeah, you don't mess with that road. Like, it's really crazy. It's, you don't speed on this road. And what they believe and what the investigation, I guess, has shown thus far, again, we're in the early stages, is that he was going just a little too fast. He was not drunk. There's nothing that would, that impaired him, thank goodness. And more importantly, no life-threatening injuries. Of course, they had to use the jaws of life to get him out of the car, and they took him to the hospital. He underwent a long, extensive surgery on his legs, and thank God, again, that it is not life-threatening, thank God we didn't lose Tiger Woods Tuesday. So just scary. I mean, I was just thinking about this, like, with some of our sports legends, we've had a really, really tough 3 years because David Ortiz, Big Papi, my man, the reason I literally became a Red Sox fan, David Ortiz, in the Dominican Republic, where he is darn near worshipped, he's shot and nearly killed. Kobe Bryant dies with his daughter and 7 others in a helicopter crash last year. And then Tiger Woods is in a very serious car accident that, thank God, did not take his life. And certainly, we look at Tiger Woods, we look at some of the adversities that's been thrown his way, some self-inflicted, some not. And when you look at the injuries that this man has suffered, I mean, he's had 2 Achilles tears. He's torn his ACL. He's had, I believe he just had his 5th back surgery. Okay. I'm trying to remember. He won one major with a broken leg, for crying out loud. So all these different things with Tiger Woods, and that's why the emotional reaction was what it was 2 years ago at the Masters when he won, was because everything that had been going on personally. Because here's the thing is with, for example, let me throw out a name, Steph Curry. Steph Curry kind of has this image that, clean cut, family man. And I'll say the other guys aren't, but he's got this image like almost perfect, right? He's almost got that a little bit. Tom Brady to a certain extent, right? Supermodel wife, family, successful, never really had a slip up in the public eye. Neither has Steph, neither has, I'd even say, LeBron James to an extent. But, Tiger, he's had his issues personally, right? But then other adversities he's had to go through have not in the slightest bit been self-inflicted. Injuries, things like that. And so I think that's why 2 years ago he wins the Masters, and people were, not just tearing up, people were actually crying when he won that, and understandably so after just the long road back, because Tiger in that way related to us, right? We're all human. We all make mistakes. And to come back, to be from, you want to talk about being in the valleys, man, and to come all the way back to the mountaintop of winning the Masters, of course, the most iconic golf tournament in the world, to come back and do that in Augusta was just it was for me. It was one of the top 3 sports moments of my life. I'm 17. I would say my 3 favorite sports moments when I think about it are probably, and I won't be biased, none of them involve my teams. The Tom Brady 28-3 comeback, I've never seen anything like it in my life. Kobe Bryant, I didn't really get to experience his prime. By the time I became a sports fan, I never got to experience him winning the MVP. I wasn't really following sports when he won. Of course, I wasn't even here yet when he three-peated with Shaq, and then he won back-to-back with Gasol and the crew in 2009, 2010. But Kobe, when he went out with 60 points, that was like, wow, mic drop. And then you had Tiger Woods winning the Masters in 2019, and it was just like, man, I mean, everything this guy's been through, and to come back and win the Masters was just, and in his prime, Tiger was as dominant of an athlete as we've ever seen. And with no disrespect to the great Jack Nicklaus, Tiger's the GOAT. I mean, he is. The stretch that Tiger had up until that, first car accident, was as great of a run by a professional athlete as we have ever seen, ever. I mean, what he did in that time span was incredible. And so, thank God he's okay. I don't know. Is this it for his golf career? I don't think we should be asking those questions right now. I mean, give it time. Let the man recover. Let the man, leave him privacy. And the most important thing is that he recovers from his injuries, that he's able to live a normal life. Of course, he has family and friends, and so I wish Tiger the absolute best. Praying for you. And so, just thank God it was not more serious than it ended up coming out to. So, just a scary, scary day involving the great Tiger Woods. So let me transition to the NFL. What I love about the NFL is kind of turning into the NBA a little bit, because we see all the time in the NBA with all these, the free agents and the drama. We're starting to see this in the NFL, and we're starting to see it with the most important position, I believe, in American sports, is quarterback, right? We see Dak's not getting along with the Jones family. You see Deshaun Watson wants out. I'll discuss Deshaun and Dak in just a little bit. And Russell Wilson, who for the last 9 years has concluded every interview he's ever done with "Go Hawks," right? That's Russell Wilson's brand, like "Go Hawks." Ultimate team first guy. And in the last month, we just be getting news source after news source after news source. Like Russ isn't just not happy. Dude is pissed off with the Seahawks organization right now. And a report came out in The Athletic, great news source. Report came out in The Athletic that before a Thursday night game against the Arizona Cardinals, I remember that game. That was right after the Hail Murray. Kyler Murray, the Hail Mary to DeAndre Hopkins to beat the Buffalo Bills. And before that game, Seattle, I believe, had just come off of a close loss. I'm trying to remember who they lost to. It's not registering in my mind. I think the game was in week 11, week 12, something like that. But Seattle's offense have been struggling a little bit. And Russ has a meeting with the coaching staff with Pete Carroll and Shoddy, the offensive coordinator. Former offensive coordinator. He got fired after the season was over. And so they've been struggling a little bit. Russ have been turning the ball over. They hadn't, been running the ball well. And so Russ is giving his input. He's like, hey, here's what I think we should do. And Pete Carroll and Shoddy pretty much says they just ignore him. They dismiss him. And according to the report, Russ, according to Bleacher Report, stormed out of the room. And then you get another report that according to Adam Schefter, by the way, Adam Schefter, right, NFL insider for ESPN, he got this directly, not from just an anonymous source. No, he got this directly from Russell Wilson's agent. So as close to Russ as anybody. Russell Wilson's agent told Adam Schefter that if Seattle doesn't fix their situation, that Russ has 4 teams on his list. And who he wants to go to. They are they said the Dolphins, the Jets, the Saints, the Raiders. I've also heard that the Bears and the Cowboys are also in there as well. So Russ wants out if Seattle doesn't fix this. My gut feeling is he'll stay. That's my gut feeling. I don't see Russell Wilson leaving Seattle this year. Because here's the thing. You read the reports, and, back when Russ first went to Seattle, first got drafted by Seattle in 2012, it seemed like him and Pete Carroll had one of the best relationships of any quarterback coach duo, right? You think about the best quarterback coach relationships. You think about Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson. And for the longest time, we thought Russell Wilson, Pete Carroll, had a great relationship. And now they don't have a good relationship at all. And now Pete is not fond of Russ. Russ is not fond of Pete. And so here we go. So here's my belief on it. And by the way, I even read earlier this week, the Seattle is actually taking calls from teams. And the report said that the teams around the league that have inquired about Russ, and the report said a third of the league has inquired about Russell Wilson's availability, that they've said they think they'll have to give up bare minimum 3 first-round picks, which sounds about right. It's Russell Wilson. I believe he's the second best quarterback in football. Maybe you disagree. He's certainly in the top 5. I mean, come on. Russell Wilson is a top 5 quarterback, and that's not even a discussion, clearly. But if this is so incredible, because Houston won't even take calls about Deshaun Watson. Seattle's taking calls about Russell Wilson, who is the best player in the history of their franchise. And it's not like the Seahawks. Look, if it were anybody, it'd be a mistake to let go of Russell Wilson, for crying out loud. But if this were the Steelers have 6 championships. They have a history of winning, right? If this were the San Francisco 49ers, who I'll discuss later on the show as well, the situation with Jimmy Garoppolo. If this were the 49ers, well, they have an extensive, they won with Montana. They won with Steve Young. They got to a Super Bowl with Colin Kaepernick. They got to a Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. It's a winning organization, right? Thinking about another team, the New Orleans Saints, at least in the last 15 years, right? In the last 15 years, the Saints have been known as a winning franchise. Now, previously, they were called the Aints. They were so bad. But with, Sean Payton, Drew Brees, that was a winning organization. Seattle, pre-Russell Wilson, went to 1 Super Bowl 40 against the Steelers, and pretty much laid an egg, didn't play well. Outside of that 1 year, Seattle's had some great players. Steve Largent was one of the best receivers, one of the most underrated receivers of all time. Of course, Sean Alexander on that Seahawks team. And better yet, pre-Russell Wilson, who was the best quarterback the Seahawks had? Matt Hasselbeck. Okay. I mean, nobody's talking about Matt Hasselbeck as a Hall of Famer, or as a one of the best quarterbacks of all time, or at least at the time he played, one of the best quarterbacks in football. By year 4, we were talking about that with Russell Wilson, right? Certainly by year 3, he got to his 2nd straight Super Bowl. And so, who in their right mind? This just blows my mind about Seattle, because, listen, we see these organizations get a little too arrogant, thinking, oh, we won. Yeah, the quarterback helped, but what do we see with the New England Patriots? Tom Brady didn't play well at the end of the season in 2019. And Bill Belichick sits back. He thinks, you know what? I'm Bill Belichick. I'm a Hall of Famer. I don't need Tom Brady. I can just go get Cam Newton. Cam Newton, right? Starter in the NFL. Very good quarterback. I can go get Cam Newton. Bring back the roster. We're going to be Super Bowl contenders this year. And the Patriots went 7-9. Missed the playoffs. We're out of it in week 15. Whereas Tom Brady went to Tampa Bay, and you saw what just happened. They're the Super Bowl champions. Very similar here. Russell Wilson did not play well at the end of 2020. He didn't. Some of it was on him. Some of it was not on him. Okay, the offensive line couldn't protect. They ran the ball too much, but Russell Wilson did make bad decisions in his own right. And so Pete Carroll sent back you know what? I'm Pete Carroll. I've won a Super Bowl. I've been to 2. I was great at USC. Okay? I put together the Legion of Boom along with John Schneider, the general manager. I got this. You know what? I can go out in free agency, and I could go get Teddy Bridgewater. I can go get Teddy Bridgewater, and we'll be Super Bowl contenders, right? We'll win 10, 11 games, win the NFC West, beat out the Rams, beat out the 49ers, the Cardinals for the division. We'll be Super Bowl contender. No. And that, by the way, that's not a shot at Teddy Bridgewater. He's a good quarterback, right? He's not Russell Wilson. Be very, very, very careful, Seattle. You let this guy go, you're signing up for a decade. Because what is Seattle pre-Russell? The first 2 years, Pete Carroll was in his third year. The year Russell Wilson was a rookie in the NFL, 2012. Pete Carroll got hired prior to the 2010 season. 2010, they made the playoffs at 7-9. The next year, 2011, they went 7-9 again. Okay? Then they bring Russell Wilson in, and 8 of the next 9 years, they make the playoffs, and in 2 of those years, they went to the dang Super Bowl and came within a yard of winning 2 straight Super Bowls. It helps when you have Russell Wilson. So I'm just saying, Seattle, you let this dude go, you let him, it's over. And not in that division, too. Okay, we could say whatever we want about the 49ers quarterback situation. As long as that team stays healthy, I mean, the last time they were healthy, they were that close to beating the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 54 a couple of years back, or a year back. So you better not mess around with this. The Rams, okay, we believe Jared Goff's a limited quarterback. They upgrade with Matthew Stafford. And again, last year, they at least gave Green Bay a run for their money in the divisional round at Lambeau Field. So now they get Matthew Stafford, and here we go. The Rams are Super Bowl contenders. Cardinals are getting better and better. Kyler Murray's just going to get better. DeAndre Hopkins, the defense got better towards the end of the season. Seattle will go literally from being division champs to by far the worst team in their division. They're not better than Arizona without Russell Wilson. Yeah, they got some really good players. Jamal Adams, DK Metcalf. They're not better than Arizona without Russ. I mean, 2007, the 1 year in the Russell Wilson era with the Seahawks, the 1 year they did not make the playoffs. They went 9-7. And with the 32nd ranked, there's 32 teams in the NFL, okay? So the last ranked offensive line in football, Russell Wilson led the league in passing. Worst offensive line in the league, led the NFL in passing. So, you think about if he goes to Chicago, who, I get it, they were 8-8, I understand. But with a quarterback circus there with Trubisky and you put Russell Wilson in there, and if they're able to bring back Allen Robinson, and I hear they're not in the best of terms right now, but if you're able to bring back Allen Robinson and somehow trade for Russell Wilson, okay, here we go. The Bears are very much in the running to compete with Green Bay like that. Okay, the Saints, man, if Russell goes to the Saints. Now, I don't know if they have the cap space due to Russell's contract making $35 million a year on average. So that would be the only concern, but Saints have a loaded roster. Like the one hole in the Saints, and I thought it was the hole last year, to be honest, no disrespect to Drew Brees, but the one hole in the Saints roster is quarterback. They got the coaching, defense, offensive line, running game, receivers. They just need a quarterback. So trade for Russell Wilson, and here we go. It's like a situation like with the Rams and with the Colts to a lesser degree. Trading for, getting an upgraded quarterback. So I'm just saying, if Seattle needs to have a come to Jesus moment right now. They do. They need to say, okay, it's Russell Wilson or Pete Carroll. Okay. Pete Carroll, 2 years pre-Russell Wilson, went 7-9. Okay. With Russell Wilson, 8 of the last 9 years, they've been in the playoffs. And the 1 year they didn't make it, they went 9-7, still a winning record. So Russ has never had a losing season in the NFL. Very few guys can say that. He's never even had a 500 season in the NFL. 9-7 in 2017. They missed the playoffs, but he had the last ranked offensive line in football and still led the league in passing. That's how great Russell Wilson is. So, and look, I'm pro player, and I'm all about, like with the Clippers, for example, the LA Clippers in, going to the NBA here, they didn't just cater their stars. They coddled their stars, right? They gave them just ridiculous privileges. They let Kawhi show up late. Like, me, I'm all about, your time ain't more important than my time. We all share the same clock. Okay. So, James Harden dictating when practice starts or when team flights are, I'm like, no, that's over the top. But I'm all for giving stars special privileges. You're going to treat LeBron James differently than you are Talon Horton Tucker, right? I mean, you just are. He's LeBron James, for crying out loud. Seattle, you better give Russell Wilson some input, because if you don't and you lose this guy, you have signed up for at least, because Seahawks do not have a history of winning. Okay? You've signed up for, at the very least, a decade of irrelevance. Simple as that. You do not. I'm telling you, don't let this guy go. You do not do that. I can't be more emphatic than I am right now. You don't let Russell Wilson go, man. I feel bad for you Seahawks fans because it appears the organization may have given Pete Carroll a little too much power, possibly. And again, 7-9, pre-Russell Wilson, 8 of the last 9 years, they've been in the playoffs. You don't let this dude go, okay? You keep him happy. There's a difference in keeping somebody happy and coddling. Keep him happy. That's all he's asking for. Help me out with the offensive line, okay? Let me have some input on the offense, okay? Tom Brady did. Look where he got Tampa Bay. You don't think Russell Wilson is smart enough to have, opinions on what they should run on certain offensive trips? Yeah. It's funny. We criticize Mike McCarthy, rightfully so. But in Green Bay, they're playing a playoff game against the Dallas Cowboys, and it's tied at 31 with like 30 seconds left, and we're all thinking, oh, this game's going to overtime. And you know what Mike McCarthy does? Who was the play caller? Mike McCarthy was the play caller with the Packers. This was the 2016 season. The game was in 2017 as the divisional round, but it was the 2016 season. Mike McCarthy said Aaron Rodgers, and he didn't do this much, which is why they ended up splitting in the end. But he said, Aaron Rodgers, here you go. You call it. You call the plays. And what happened? Boop, 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 boop. Right down the field, game-winning field goal, and the Packers advanced to the NFC Championship game. Okay? And for Tampa Bay with the Bucks, no risk it, no biscuit, right? Bruce Arians, that's his brand. And Brady's like, I love throwing the ball deep, but can we not throw the ball deep all the time? Can we not always be looking for the home run shot? Because I'm taking more hits. I'm throwing more interceptions. We're not as efficient offensively. Let's mix a little bit of New England's offense with Josh McDaniels. Let's just mix a little. We got the weapons. This is why I came here. We've got the weapons. Let's mix a little bit of the New England offense into it. Mix Bruce Arians into it. Bada bing, bada boom. The Buccaneers went 8-0 down the stretch and won the Super Bowl. Who would have known? These quarterbacks aren't idiots, okay? These quarterbacks know what the heck they're talking about. So Seattle better not let Russell Wilson go, man. I might have I'm not a Seahawks fan, but I might go on a full-on rant on this show if they let Russ go. The best player in the history of their franchise, right smack dab in the middle of his prime. You cannot let this guy go. It'd be the biggest mistake in the history of your franchise. You cannot let this happen. Okay? If you're more about Pete Carroll having power than keeping Russell Wilson happy, that's your decision, but it will cost you bare minimum for a decade. Seattle is not going to do jack without Russell Wilson. They didn't do anything with him. They won't do anything without him. Unless they draft another Russell Wilson, and that's highly unlikely. So the Lakers lost to the Utah Jazz last night. I said this was a much bigger game for Utah than it was for the Lakers. A lot of people disagree. They're saying, hey, Lakers are on a 3-game losing streak to the lost to the Nets, and then they lost to the Heat, and then they lost after blowing a big lead against the Wizards at home. And so, man, they need to get something going here without Anthony Davis. And I said, look, this is way bigger for Utah. I said this on another show. I was on the Across the Pond Sports Podcast. I was on their NBA show. Great dudes, by the way. Follow them on Instagram. Check out their show. Great dudes. But I was I was on their show, and James, who's kind of runs the whole thing there, he's a big Utah Jazz fan. And I said, look, I like Utah a lot this year. I don't think they can beat the Lakers. I don't. But I actually like the Jazz more than I do the Clippers. And not a lot of people believe that, but I like the Jazz more than I do the Clippers. I still think the Clippers are a little messed up psychologically from last season, and still doesn't look like it still quite clicks the way the Lakers do when they're healthy. But I said, look, Utah better. I know it's a regular season. Utah better win this game without Anthony Davis. Lakers don't have AD. They're on a 3-game losing streak. They're on the road. Utah's rolling. You better win this game. And credits to the Utah Jazz. Them guys took care of business, and it won handily. I mean, they 25-point win. That's yay. I can't complain about that. LeBron James was not great. Only 19 points, 7 for 13 for the field, 1 for 5 from 3. LeBron has been struggling in recent games from 3-point territory. But here's why I'm not concerned. I'm not. about the Lakers. Again, it goes to what I've said about the Jazz. I love Utah. I think Utah is legit, man. I think they are a legit basketball team. But at the same time, I don't think they could beat the Lakers in the long run. But that all being said, this is why I'm not worried about the Lakers. First of all, as it pertains to LeBron, and again, listen, I'm fine with him playing, not wanting to low minutes. That's fine. That's great. I'd rather my superstars play than not play. But nobody at his age in the history of the NBA has been around, 75 years or something? In the history of the NBA, LeBron James is 36 years old. Nobody at his age has ever led the league in minutes per game. LeBron is doing that right now in the month of February. Don't love it. I don't love. I get it. He's LeBron, and he takes incredible care of his body. I don't want him leading the league in minutes. Okay, I in the month of February, at the age of 36, I get it without AD. You need to win some games. That's my only concern as far as LeBron. Now, we've seen this time and time again in LeBron's career. Like, seriously, you can go back and look at the history. This happened the year the Cavs won the finals in 2016. This happened the year after that. They didn't finish the regular season great, and they still got to the finals. The year after that, where LeBron just carried Cleveland, his last year with the Cavs, carried Cleveland to the finals. They weren't just average January. They were bad in January. Cleveland was terrible in that month. Okay. And we're, it's a 72-game season. So if you kind of condense it and look at it from this angle, we're kind of in that. If we were an 82-game season, it's kind of like January. Kind of, right? 72 games, 82 games, you kind of get the idea. But LeBron is historically in January not great. It's just, that's fine. It's mid-season. I'd rather him not be great this time than in April, May, and June, which is when he always shows up and he's always, asserts himself as one of the greatest players in the history of basketball. As far as the Lakers, I'm not concerned. You know why? Because let me think. Okay, I had to do that in my head a second. The last 5 NBA champions have had a 3-game losing streak. Think about that. The Lakers last year had 2 3-game losing streaks. You say, well, they're on a 4-game losing streak now. I'm going to speak personally as a Warriors fan, okay? The last year Kevin Durant was there, 2018-19, okay? It's early in that season, and it's like a month in, and Steph Curry gets hurt, and Klay's dealing with injuries, KD's dealing with Draymond, and Golden State loses 4 straight games, okay? They got to the finals, and if they were healthy, you and I both know they would have beaten the Toronto Raptors. So a 4-game losing streak at the beginning of the season, beginning half the season, is not going to make or break you. It's not, especially when you're missing Anthony Davis and Dennis Schroeder to a lesser degree. So no, I'm not worried about the Lakers. Now, again, and I talked about this last year, it's one of the reasons I stupidly liked the Clippers to beat the Lakers last year, is because, and this was their issue, same issue last year, same this year, second verse, same as the first. They cannot shoot the 3. They can't. I don't know why. They can't shoot as a team. Now, LeBron got off to a scorching hot start from 3. He was shooting almost 40%. I think he was shooting 39% from the 3-point line. And he's cooled off big time in the last month or so. And so they couldn't shoot last year, and they still won the championship. So, they're the only team I've seen in the last 5 years to where they really can't shoot the 3, and they're still one of the best teams in the league. Like we saw what Steph Curry did to the game and how he changed it, and in that you have to be able to shoot. The Lakers are the only exception to that rule. Okay, it doesn't mean that rule's not in effect. There's always outliers. Okay, but this is I don't think in the long run the Jazz are going to beat the Lakers. I don't. But I do believe if the playoffs line up like this, and it looks like they will, the Utah Jazz will meet the Los Angeles Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. I will take the Lakers without a doubt. Without a doubt. But Utah is the second best team in the West, okay? They are better than the Clippers. They are better than the Suns. They're better than everybody else there by a mile, okay? They shoot the 3 well. Quinn Snyder has not got enough credit. Dude, and I've said this for years, he is a great coach. Remember, Gordon Hayward left in free agency in 2017, and people's like, okay, Utah's going to go into a rebuild. And Utah not only made the playoffs with a rookie, Donovan Mitchell, as their best player, they took down Russell Westbrook, Paul George, and Carmelo Anthony. Now, you could say those pieces didn't fit together great, and you'd probably be right. Nevertheless, as the 5 seed, took down Oklahoma City in the first round. And in a game against the Rockets, I believe it was game 2 of the second round, Donovan Mitchell went off against Houston. And they won a game against the Rockets, who nearly beat Golden State. So this is a legit basketball team with a great coach, Donovan Mitchell, who is a superstar. I did not think Rudy Gobert deserved to make the All-Star game personally. I think he's a great Stifle Tower, right? He's a great defensive player. I didn't think he deserved to make the All-Star game personally, but that's just my personal opinion. Maybe you guys feel differently, but that's just where I stand. But it's a deep roster. They can shoot the 3, right? They move the ball. They're a great defensive team. They held the Lakers to 89 points. So this is a real basketball team. This is a championship contender. Now the problem is they're going to run into the defending champs, the Lakers, when they're fully healthy in the Western Conference Finals, and they cannot beat the Lakers, but they dang sure can beat the Clippers. We see time and time again the Clippers as a franchise, and then outside of Kawhi Leonard, and even Kawhi last year was not great against Denver. Paul George, you trust him in the playoffs? I don't. I trust Donovan Mitchell way more. Look at the playoffs last year against the Nuggets. Okay, Donovan Mitchell was amazing against Denver. I think he had like 2 50-point games or something crazy. I know he had it was 2 40-plus point games. One game, I think he went over 50. He was amazing. And Paul George couldn't throw in the Pacific Ocean against the Denver Nuggets last year, where they blew a 3-1 lead, similar to Utah. But remember, Utah didn't have Bogdanovich last year. They do this year, and he's making a big impact. Mike Conley's more comfortable in that system. So I don't think last night's an indictment on the Lakers, because I said on another podcast, Utah needs to win this game because Lakers have not been playing good basketball. Anthony Davis and Dennis Schroeder are out. You're at home. You better win this game. And they didn't just win. They just dominated from the opening tip. Won the game by 25. I'm not worried about the Lakers. They're still the best team in the West in my mind. Every year, LeBron James-led teams has little bumps in the road midseason, and then by the time the playoffs get here, they're hitting their stride and they get to the finals. That's how it works. That's how LeBron James led teams work. It's fine. I don't care do you get to the finals? Okay. Are you putting yourself in a position to get to win the finals? Okay, I'll take that then. I'll take that over anything else, except for winning the championship. As long as you can win it, that's all that matters. As the great Herman Edwards said, you play to win the game. Okay, Lakers are going to be fine in the long run, but Utah is their biggest threat in the West. So let me talk about my favorite quarterback, so much so I'm wearing the Dak hat. You see Dak, it's an A, but it's still 4. You get the idea. Sorry for the podcast audience. But I was thinking about this the other day. And so yeah, I listen to other shows. I watch other shows. I watch on TV, ESPN, Fox Sports, occasionally NBC Sports, right? Rich Eisen, Dan Patrick on NBC. I listen to fellow podcasters, some who I've had on the show, and a good buddy of mine, Ryan Flowers from Clutch Sports Talk. Check his show out on, I believe it's on Facebook at 8 p.m. Eastern on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And he's talked about, and he's been a proponent of this for the last month or two, maybe longer. I could be wrong, but he's been a kind of proponent of Dak Prescott's a better quarterback than Deshaun Watson, and I've disagreed. I love Dak, love him. I think he's a top 6 or 7 quarterback in the NFL. I've loved him since he came into the league. Actually, since before he came into the league at Mississippi State. And I thought about it, and I was like, no, I'm taking Deshaun Watson. I can't take Dak over Deshaun. I can't do it. And I looked at the stats. I looked at the numbers. I looked at the current situations both guys have been in for the last 2 seasons. And then I sat back and I was like, you know what? I'm still not quite ready to say Dak's better, but boy, the gap's closer than I thought. So looking at their numbers, okay, in 2019, Dak threw for more touchdowns, okay, more yards, and had fewer interceptions in 2019. So Dak was a better quarterback than Deshaun Watson in 2019. Now, of course, this year Deshaun was just fantastic with the nothing he had around him, and Dak got hurt after 5 games, but even in the 5 games Dak was in, he was sensational. I mean, he wouldn't have, of course, he wouldn't have done this, but he was on pace to throw for like 6,000 yards, which the record's over 5,400, held by Peyton Manning. Okay, so Dak probably wasn't going to throw for 6,000 yards. That'd have been just crazy. But he was going to throw for over 5,000 without a question. He was going to lead the league in passing before his, very unfortunate injury in Week 5 against the Giants. But, and by the way, Dak has a better completion percentage in his career than Deshaun Watson. So, let's see. I apologize. Deshaun has a better completion percentage. But Dak last year, in his last season, these two guys were fully healthy. Dak had more passing yards, more passing touchdowns, and fewer interceptions. And so then I sat back, and you know me, I fully support Deshaun wanting out of Houston. Fully support him. He actually, a report came out today from Adam Schefter that he met with David Culley, the new head coach, who seemed like their third or fourth option because nobody wanted to go there. And so they just hired, the thing was, get whoever says yes, we're just going to hire them, right? Because nobody wanted to go to Houston. It's a mess over there. And apparently Deshaun Watson met with David Culley, the new head coach, today. And Deshaun was like, I don't want to be here, man. Like, I want out. I'm not kidding here. I do want out of here. And so, listen, the Texans just got to sit back and say, look, he doesn't want to be here anymore. It sucks that we're losing this guy, but at the same time, we did it. We put the bad offensive line. We couldn't put a defense around him in a division that's not known for great quarterback play, at least since Andrew Luck retired. In Tennessee, it's Ryan Tannehill, good quarterback, borderline Pro Bowler, but not somebody who's going to get you to the Super Bowl. In Jacksonville, now it's going to be Trevor Lawrence, who's, you know what I think? I think he's going to be just amazing in the NFL. But, before that, it was Blake Bortles and Nick Foles and Gardner Minshew, like not great quarterback play. And then you look at the last team in that division, the Indianapolis Colts. Andrew Luck was great. Couldn't stay healthy, though. And so is Jacoby Brissett. Nice quarterback. Not going to win you a Super Bowl. Phillip Rivers, tail end of his career, he's not going to win you a Super Bowl. And so the Texans, for the last 3-4 seasons, have had the best quarterback in their division. And yet somehow, some way, they found a way to screw it up. They promised him when he signed that contract that was going to pay him an average of $39 million a year. They said, we're going to give you input. They promised him they were going to do that. We are going to give you input. We're going to, and they told him, by the way, when they fired Bill O'Brien midseason, they said, once we get to the head coaching hires, once we get, to the point of the season after the season's over, we're going to hire a new head coach. We're going to give you some input, some opinions, who you think we should hire or we should consider. And they didn't. And they broke that trust. They did. You don't break promises. And that's exactly what they did with Deshaun Watson. And that and the fact that he gets hit every single play, it seems like. They traded away DeAndre Hopkins for nothing. The fact they even traded DeAndre Hopkins was insanity. Like, why are you trading DeAndre Hopkins, one of the 3 best receivers in the NFL? There's some really good receivers in the NFL. There aren't a whole lot of great ones. And you had one in your building that your quarterback and receiver have a great relationship. They're lethal together. And you just trade the guy off for nothing. Like, what are you doing? Okay? They couldn't put a great defense around him. They couldn't put in a great line around him. He never had great coaching. That sounds familiar. Dak Prescott never had great coaching. Okay? The last 2 seasons has not had a great offensive line. He's not, when he came into the league, they were the best offensive line in football. I'll give you that. But at the same time, Deshaun came into the league in 2017. The Houston Texans had just made the playoffs. They were the division champions. They had just made the playoffs with Brock Osweiler. Okay? And you look at the Texans in 2017, you said, well, they were 4-12. Deshaun got hurt like after 5 or 6 games mid-season. So that was not his fault. They would have been better than 4-12. Not saying they would have made the playoffs. They would not have been 4-12. But the point is, Deshaun gets drafted by a team that just made the playoffs as a division champion. Dak gets drafted by a team that went 4-12. So, and by the way, you say, well, Tony Romo's hurt that season. Okay, Tony Romo played 4 games that year. The other starters combined, for a record of 1-11. Dak comes in, no Romo, and Dak goes 13-3. So the last 2 seasons, neither Dak or Deshaun have had great coaching. Mediocre at best coaching. Deshaun's had a worse offensive line, but neither have had great offensive lines. Both had very good receiving cores. Okay, even without DeAndre Hopkins, when that Houston receiving core is healthy, those are some good players. Will Fuller, Kenny Stills. Okay, both have had average at best tight end play. Both have had 0 running game over the last 2 seasons, and neither have had a great defense. And by the way, their QBR identical, literally exactly the same. So I'm sitting back and thinking, the gap between Dak and Deshaun is not crazy, which is amazing, because I've always liked Dak. It drives me crazy. People say, "Oh, he's a B quarterback. He's a B plus. He's a starter, but he's not going to win you a Super Bowl." Please, nobody can win in Dallas. Okay, you can't put. I truly believe this deep down. You cannot put Tom Brady in Dallas and they win a Super Bowl. Tom Brady, 7-time Super Bowl champion, that took the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to the Super Bowl. You can, because you know what the biggest issue is? Jerry Jones. Gerald Wayne Jones is the man's full name. Meddling owner. It's all about him. It's all about staying relevant, right? It's all about staying in the news, even though we went 6-10 and we're a trash. Okay, they were a bad 6-10 team. Okay, just all about staying relevant. And I understand. Listen, Jerry's a great owner. Okay, look, the Dallas Cowboys are the most valuable sports franchise, not in America, in the world. They're the most valuable sports franchise on planet Earth. Jerry's a great owner. He's a terrible general manager. Okay? He overpaid DeMarcus Lawrence. He overpaid Ezekiel Elliott. He overpaid Jalen Smith. He overpaid Amari Cooper. Okay? You could say he overpaid Zach Martin. I think Zach Martin's worth every penny. He's the best right guard in football. So you're willing to overpay Amari Cooper and Jalen Smith and DeMarcus Lawrence and Ezekiel Elliott, none of which have lived up even close to what they're being paid. But the most important player in your team, the best player in your team, Dak Prescott, you still refuse to give the man what he's earned. You say, well, they were after him $35 million a year. Okay, 2 years from now, you say the salary cap's going to go down, and it is. The salary cap's going to drop a little bit because of the pandemic and because of the money the NFL lost. But 2 years from now, I've read about it. 2 years. This new TV negotiation is going on right now. Of course, Fox, NBC, CBS, and ESPN are, they broadcast games, and occasionally ABC, which is, of course, affiliated with ESPN, they'll broadcast games. There's rumors that Disney is going to be involved. We know how big of a business Disney is. Amazon Prime is going to be given more games. And so they're saying this TV deal can make the current salary cap in the NFL is $180 million. The TV deal, because of all the money it produced for the NFL, could skyrocket the cap to $230 million. I mean, a few years ago, Jimmy Garoppolo got paid $25 million, and we're thinking, that's crazy. Jimmy Garoppolo's the highest paid player in the league. Today, and you can say what you want about Jimmy G, and I'm going to talk about him in just a second at the end of the show. Jimmy G's gotten to the Super Bowl, and $25 million is nothing for a quarterback now. Heck, $30 million is virtually, I don't want to say nothing, but it's if you sign a great quarterback to $30 million, you got a bargain, man. And Dak asked for $30 million in 2018. No, you're not worth that. You're going to take a hometown discount. By the way, you've seen what Jerry Jones and the lack of contribution he's made to those who are struggling in Texas. That's neither here nor there. I'll just leave that I'll just leave that be. But he has not only not helped those in Texas, but he's actually hurt them. But that's neither here nor there. That's Jerry Jones. But he wants Dak to take a hometown discount. Okay. So Dak wants $30 million in 2018. No, you're not worth that. Okay. $35 million in 2019. Nope, you're not worth that. We'll pay you 30 though. Okay. 2020. We'll pay you 35. No, I want 40. Okay. So Once this TV deal comes, the salary cap is going to go from $180 million to $230 million. Okay? So $35 million is going to look like $20 million. Okay? Or $25 million. It's going to be, Dak's going to, go from being the second highest paid quarterback to Pat Mahomes to being like the eighth or ninth highest paid quarterback. So all of a sudden, Dallas could have gotten him locked up a couple of years ago when he's asking for $30 million, which looking back now, Jerry and Stephen Jones got to be kicking themselves because it's like, man, we could have got this dude for $30 million. Boy, we messed up, but that's what you get for bad business. That's what you get for overpaying DeMarcus Lawrence and Amari Cooper and Jalen Smith and Ezekiel Elliott. That's your own fault. That's not Dak's fault or his agent's fault. They just want to get the money they've earned. But when you sit back and look, I'm like, identical numbers, identical situations, although I think Deshaun's is a little worse than Dak, but both are in dysfunctional organizations. Dak's in Deshaun's league. Dak is in Deshaun's category. And I'm just saying, this could be interesting. Dak's going to get franchise tagged this year. Dallas is not going to let him hit the open market. That was my prediction. I do believe this is going to be Dak Prescott's last year in Dallas before he can finally be an actual free agent and get to choose where he goes. Because if they franchise tag him next year, it's going to be north of $50 million. That's not going to happen. That'd be just crazy. I don't think Patrick Mahomes, under this current salary cap, is worth $50 million. So, this just goes to show you bad business again by the Cowboys, and they're paying the price for it. So that that's what happens. So last topic of the day, Jimmy Garoppolo. There's been discussion over the past week, I would say. Is John Lynch going to keep him? And John Lynch came out and said, no, Jimmy Garoppolo is our quarterback next season. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be our starting quarterback for the 2021 season for the San Francisco 49ers. And so it's like, okay, so San Francisco's not going to be in the hunt for a quarterback. They're not going to draft anybody. But I'd heard some mock drafts by these draft experts. Of course, the draft's a couple months from now. I love the NFL draft. To me, it's the most entertaining draft of any league, but by far. Because, we follow these guys in college and these big programs at Florida and Alabama and Clemson and Notre Dame and USC, these big programs, we follow them. And so we like to see where they go in the NFL. But I see a lot of mock drafts had them taking the 49ers, taking Justin Fields. And I don't love Justin Fields. He was a little too inconsistent last year at Ohio State. He probably would have been better served sitting out the season. He probably would have went over Zach Wilson, who's projected to be the second overall pick by the Jets if they move on from Sam Darnold. If they don't, he'll still be the second quarterback taken. But Justin Fields, some had him sliding to San Francisco. And I thought about it, and I was like, that would actually be kind of a bad pick for San Francisco. And here's why. Not an indictment on Justin Fields, but you do have to develop him. And there's nothing wrong with that. You got to, develop a young quarterback. That's totally normal. That's how it works. But you have a guy in Jimmy Garoppolo who the last season he was healthy went 13-3 and came within one throw, a deep ball that he missed, a go route he missed Emmanuel Sanders on that would have won the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. Came that close to winning the Lombardi Trophy. Jimmy Garoppolo's biggest issue has been durability. And what do I say? The best ability is availability. It's not my saying, by the way. I took that from someone else. I'm not gonna sit here and act like I invented that, because I didn't. But it's true. The best ability is availability. You can't do anything if you're not out there. And that's been too often been the case with Jimmy Garoppolo. 2016, Tom Brady, after Tom got the bogus 4-game suspension for the ridiculous scandal that was Deflategate. Spygate was legit. Deflategate was just a bunch of nothing. Tom wrongfully got suspended 4 games. Jimmy Garoppolo is like, okay, we're going to start Jimmy the first 4 games. In the second game of the season, Jimmy gets hurt. Okay? So a season after that, he gets traded to San Francisco and plays great at the end of the year. 2018, 49ers are like, okay, we've got our quarterback. Let's go make a run. And in the third game of the season, Jimmy Garoppolo tears his ACL. So they come back in 2019. They go 13-3, and they come that close to winning the Super Bowl against Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs. Okay, so we got to run this back. And Jimmy G has issues with his ankle, his knee. That's been his issue. Can he stay healthy? That's been Jimmy Garoppolo's biggest problem. Can the man stay healthy? If he can, the 49ers are contenders. So why would it be a mistake to draft Justin Fields if you're San Francisco? I love Kyle Shanahan. But if Kyle Shanahan, without Jimmy G, struggles even more, because without Jimmy G, Kyle Shanahan doesn't just have a losing record. He's got a bad record. He's way under 500 with CJ Beathard and Nick Mullins. And they haven't done anything without Jimmy Garoppolo. They've been at least a bad offense. I won't go to so far as say a bad football team. The defense was at least competent without, with Jimmy Garoppolo not in the lineup offensively. But if they bring in a new quarterback and they don't win any games and they don't compete for the playoffs or compete for a Super Bowl, John Lynch might consider pulling the plug on this Kyle Shanahan experience and experiment. And I think that would be a mistake because I think that both John Lynch, who, by the way, deserves to be in the Hall of Fame and is finally, John Lynch is a smart guy. Kyle Shanahan is a smart guy. So I think it'd be a mistake to fire Shanahan. But if he struggles with another quarterback not named Jimmy Garoppolo, that's not a great look. It's not. So bring back Jimmy G, cross your fingers he stays healthy, and go after a Super Bowl again. Started every game, went to the Super Bowl. And by the way, destroyed Minnesota. If we're talking about that playoff run, destroyed Minnesota, who was a very good team in 2019, wiped the floor with Green Bay, who was 13-3, a fraudulent 13-3, but wiped the floor with them twice, by the way. And they had a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter against Kansas City, who some people believe to be the next dynasty. That's pretty impressive if you're Jimmy G. And so I think, could the 49ers get an upgrade quarterback? Sure, they could. Not this offseason, though. Not in the draft, not in free agency. Because look, Deshaun's not getting traded to San Francisco. Seattle dang sure is not going to trade Russell Wilson to the division rival, their most hated rival in the division, so that's not going to happen. And Dak's going to get franchise tagged by Dallas. So what are their options? Because even if you do draft a young quarterback, what are you getting? He could be great, and he could not be great. So at least for this season, let's go after Super Bowl one more time with Jimmy Garoppolo. If he proves to us he can do it once again, then we'll just make sure we keep him long term and go after a few more of these in the next few seasons. But if he gets hurt again, we need to move on. Bottom line. But I don't think they need to draft Justin Fields. They need a proven guy in there. They've got a win now mentality, a loaded roster, a young roster that's ready to win now, a great young coach, great general manager. Go after another Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. If he still proves he can't stay healthy, move on. That's simple. So the 49ers are in a great situation here. Again, last full season he was healthy. They went to the Super Bowl. That's only thing he could have done better is make that one throw to Emmanuel Sanders that would have won the Super Bowl. So that's that. And with that, that is all the time we have for today's show. Thank you guys so much for listening. Be sure to catch Carving It Up tomorrow, as always, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Facebook Live, on YouTube, on Twitter. If you're listening to the podcast, thank you. You have listened to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and Anchor, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. Also, I was on recently the Across the Pond podcast to discuss the NBA, so be sure to check out their show. Had a great conversation with James and Ryan over there, and so be sure to check that out. So hope everybody has a great evening. Catch us tomorrow. God bless you all. Stay safe. Peace out.